Well, apparently, friends, the critics are traitors. That's at least what we're being told now. And criminal actions are happening against those who are saying wrong things, who are spreading misinformation. Friends, we need to talk about this because this is escalating to a crazy absolute degree. We got this happening in South Africa. We got this happening with Zelensky and the whole Ukraine thing happening. Friends, if you're not towing the line that the media and the global elite want you too can be a traitor. We need to cover some major issues here with free speech as well as opposition to what's happening with the globalists. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade, and welcome back to Pittsburgh. I need to get your input for a moment here. We've been having the Texas flag up here because of the invasion. And we just heard from President Trump that the invasion is over. And when you look at the statistics of the numbers, people coming across the border and stuff like that, he's right. It's true. So the question is should we take this down and just kind of center up the American flag? Or what do you think I should do with the background here? Let me know down in the comments down below. I will read those over and check things into it. But I'm glad to be back here in the U.S. My water heater went kablooey sometime while I was gone, so that was a whole ordeal. But I think I got it put in correctly. So hopefully that's going to work out. Got some help with that. So, all right, let's talk about what's happening here with Ukraine and with South Africa. Now, I know a lot of you guys probably aren't keeping up to date with what's going on in South Africa. There's some major documentaries that have been done by some of the conservatives out there about the attacks on white farmers, the racism, the outright racism against people with light-colored skin in South Africa, now having their property confiscated and stolen just because of the color of their skin. Now, the government of South Africa and the ANC that rules has opened 4 dockets for high treason for individuals in South Africa for spreading misinformation. That's their quote, misinformation. Yeah, this is absolutely happening. Monday, they confirmed that they have opened 4 high treason. They weren't against individuals, they're against organizations. Basically, the AfriForum and Solidarity Trade Union, amongst 2 others. So anyone in these groups is going to be basically branded as a traitor for having the audacity to speak out against the government's going out and confiscating people's land, people's homes, for redistribution. Now, they're out there saying that that these groups were spreading misinformation about the intent of the government. Well, let's be real clear on the intent of the government. The government just gave itself the right to seize people's property and redistribute it as they see fit. What does intent have to do with anything? They're like, well, we're not going to use that badly, and for you to suggest that we're going to use it badly means you're a traitor. And I don't know about the laws in South Africa, but treason in a lot of countries comes with the death penalty. And we're seeing this type of thing that if you disagree with the status quo, if you disagree with the direction that they're heading in with a lot of this stuff, you are finding yourself to be threatened with bodily harm. Anyone who is out there questioning in any way Zelensky and the Ukraine thing is being threatened with bodily harm. There's organizations, there's groups, there's YouTube commentators actively inciting violence against people who are not supporting Ukraine. Since when do we have an obligation to support another country on the other side of the world who's not even an ally of the United States? And besides that, as an American, don't I have the right to just not support just about anything? Like, I don't support Vietnam. I mean, I don't have anything against Vietnam, but I don't support them. I don't want my tax dollars going to them. I don't want to go on campaign marches for Vietnam. There's lots of other countries that I don't support either. Cambodia. Just any country. I mean, countries that I haven't thought about in a long time. Mozambique. Haven't been there ever. So extra don't really care one way or another. I know there's lots of people there, I'm sure, that really desperately need help. And I'm all about organizations going and helping them. And if you have an organization that's going to help them, sure. But the country as a whole, you know, there's conflicts around the world, military conflicts, and I don't necessarily want to take military sides on conflicts on the other side of the world. Especially ones that I don't necessarily know all that much about. Or in the case of Ukraine, where I know far too much about the history. Far more than apparently a lot of our distinguished or extinguished politicians. So let's get on to this. Zelensky had his little blow up with the President of the United States and tried to humiliate President Trump and J.D. Vance. And in the end, he actually got his butt handed to him. And he got kicked out of the White House. Now, we find out kind of what went on with that. One, he was incited by the Democratic political people inside the United States. Democrats from Congress and the Senate met with Zelensky and apparently incited him to try to embarrass President Trump. He was also incited by Europeans. His understanding was that if he could embarrass the United States and embarrass Trump, that Europe would pick up the slack and do these things for him. So he goes over to Europe and they start hugging and kissing and all sorts of stuff. This comedy actor gets a great reception over in Europe, and they're so happy that they get to take all of the glory from this. Now, we won't talk about the fact that the United States has given far more to Ukraine than the Europeans have so far, but they're gonna take the credit for being the people who care. So they reject President Trump's negotiations with Russia directly because President Trump kind of realizes that Russia has to agree to the peace treaty, the peace deal. Ukraine is so dependent upon other countries that they can be forced into the situation. They can be forced into a peace treaty, right? But if a peace treaty is drafted without Russians, at least in principle, agreeing with the things, then it's really a non-starter. I mean, I don't care if we can get every other country in the world to agree like, hey, that's a good peace treaty. If Russia's not on board with it, I mean, Russia's the one who's winning this war. And if you don't agree with that, go do some research, because Russia keeps grabbing more and more villages, keeps grabbing more and more territory, and the Ukrainian army just can't stop them. They're slowly losing. And it's getting worse by the day. So Europe comes up with this grand idea that the European countries are going to get together and they're going to agree with Ukraine on a peace proposal. And then they're going to somehow try to force this on Russia somehow, which is absolutely idiotic. It's what a 3-year-old would come up with. This is what we want, so we're going to go do this, and then we're going to call this a peace deal. It's not a peace deal if the two sides of the conflict don't actually agree to it. All right, let's go over their 4 points. Because you're going to see all this and you're going to go, wow, Russia will really want to accept this. First, Europe will keep military aid flowing to Ukraine and increase their sanctions on Russia. I mean, why wouldn't Russia love that? So that's what they're going to do. Lots more aid to Ukraine and increase sanctions on Russia, which will earn them goodwill or something. I don't know. Somehow it's going to pave its way to peace. 2, Ukraine will be part of any peace talks. We just saw how Zelensky and could handle Donald Trump. I'm sure he'll be absolutely cool-headed with the Russian representatives. I'm sure he won't provoke them or say anything crazy off the wall at all. Like, won't happen, right? I mean, it'll be totally a good idea. Yeah. Probably not going to work out very well. All right. Number 3. They're going to, if there's peace, if they get some sort of peace treaty, they're going to then massively boost the Ukrainian military's capabilities. That's kind of what Russia was afraid of the whole time. Russia has said, red line, definitely, Ukraine needs to be demilitarized. They do not want a NATO army sitting on their doorstep. So the European peace plan is we're going to put a massive NATO military right on the Russian border. Now, if you crack open a history book, which is where they hide all sorts of interesting things, you'll note that Europe has a long history of invading Russia. And it also long history of Russia beating the snot out of Europeans. So even before Napoleon went into Russia, even before the short German guy went into Russia, we're talking about time after time after time after time, Europe tried invading Russia. So you can imagine why Russia is just a little bit nervous about having European troops, large European troops, sitting right on their border. They are afraid of being invaded again, and they've said so. So, point number 3, let's put lots of troops in a fully militarized Ukraine. All right, so basically so far we're seeing that Russia will have like absolutely zero interest in this peace plan. This is just going to incite Russia more. Number 4, they're going to develop a coalition of the willing, which is a really cool name. And go Europeans, we got this cool name. I mean, when it comes to building up names for operations and units and campaigns, Europeans, they're the best. They just truly are. Americans, they basically just choose a random word. Europeans, they think really long and hard about how it will sound and will it be cool. The Europeans then will have the Americans do all the fighting, while the Europeans basically sit there and, I don't know, go on parades and stuff. So, they're going to build a coalition of willing to deploy troops and aircraft to Ukraine once a peace treaty is signed. Again, this whole conflict was about demilitarizing Ukraine, and the European solution is let's get a peace plan and then let's militarize Ukraine. And then they're going to somehow get Russia to agree to this. And if you're opposed to this in any way, shape, or form, you are a traitor and a bigot and a racist and the NZ word and everything else that they can name at you. Before this conflict began, this country was named as the most corrupt country in Europe. Now, since Russia is in that country, in Europe as well, the fact that it's more corrupt than even them should tell you a little bit about who we're dealing with. And yet, we're supposed to believe that they're so squeaky clean that we should never ask any questions whatsoever for anything. We should just give them more money. Don't worry about the fact that a bunch of that money ended up in the pockets of the big guy and his son, who have been pardoned from any crimes that they may have committed during this entire time that they were interacting with this country. Again, if you have any questions about that, you're a bigot. Zelensky also has said that he sees that the end of the war is very, very far away. He intends to fight it out. You know, there's times in wars when the writing is on the wall and a nation has been defeated. And we've seen this time and time again, and yet the armies refuse to quit fighting. They refuse to recognize what has happened on the battlefield. And this is one of those cases where this guy can't figure out what has happened. I don't know if it's just he's surrounded with people who just don't understand what's going on, or more likely, he is so financially invested in this conflict that he is getting so rich and he is getting so much praise and accolades. He was getting standing ovations as he visited these countries in Europe. Standing ovations. Most important people in Europe all hugging him and telling him how he's the greatest man to have walked the face of the earth since Jesus. Some of them think he's even better than Jesus. And yeah, has this gone to his head a little bit? Yeah, it has. Has he canceled all the elections? Yes, he has. And you're not allowed to question any of that. And we're seeing on social media, hopefully this video doesn't get too docked by because we're talking about this kind of thing. Misinformation. What they deem as misinformation. Anything that they disagree with that's spoken is being more and more criminalized. Now we have a brief reprieve here with Donald Trump as president of the United States where we might have a little bit of freedom, at least from the government. But these social media companies are still coming after us. All right, friends, we'll keep you updated on any kind of further developments that are going on here. So it looks like peace in Eastern Europe is just not going to happen for the near term. Hopefully President Trump and others can pull something out of the fire. But if Ukraine is absolutely enthralled with the idea of going down in a blaze of glory, I don't know what you can say to stop them. All right, friends. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. Let me know, like I said, about what you want to do with the background here. Should we take on the Texas flag? I don't really have a flag that I think will work so well up there. I got an Appeal to Heaven flag, but it doesn't really look all that good. But I like the idea of it. Maybe there's a flag out there that we should put up in that place. Let me know down in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report out.